Hello CDA1, this is your Module 7 checklist. We're moving on to Functional Area 7, Creative Skills. So we're going to be looking at development, appropriate learning experience, and teaching strategies for children to explore music, movement, the visual arts, and to develop and express their individual creative abilities. So when we look at this, there's a quiz, a discussion, and 2 assignments. This is the most work this week. They'll be due next Thursday on the 8th. Here's details of it. Then we're going to dive into the content material. And the whole thing is, the big thing is, has to do with, and I'll add it here, about process versus product art. Now, a lot of times, I'll go into infant classrooms and I'll see footprints and you're just like, they're like, there's our art. And you're like, okay, you made that with their foot. They had no participation in that. What inside of them did they expressed to you with this footprint? Nothing. So it's the idea that when you're like, hey, we're going to be making frogs today, and someone says, I want a pink one, that's fine. Like, they're eventually going to know as an adult that frogs are green and not pink, but they're expressing themselves. So here's the virtual lab schooling, and here's the one for preschool. The Chapter 7 quiz related to the Beatty book. Then we have a discussion about music in the brain, and a lot of times when we think of creative arts, a lot of times our minds first go to Play-Doh, sculpting, painting, things along those lines, but music is really important too. And the math behind music and all the things you can teach through music and accessing the right side of there's so much with music. So I want us to explore that, try and find an outside resource. Here's one about music therapy as a way to help children process trauma or events that are happening in their lives. And then it's going to be there's a question is, how many ways music can help young children develop their cognitive skills? How can it help? Okay, so you're going to have, and I caught it everywhere but right here. So you're going to have to post 2 times by October 8th, which is next Thursday. 2 comments on other people's. Then this is competency statement 2. So we've looked at functional areas of physical, cognitive, communication, and creative. So all those fall under competency statement 2 about promoting physical and cognitive development in children. So what you're going to do is write one final statement for the PD specialist that explains how you've mastered and how you do this in your classroom. So there's going to be an initial paragraph where you make some broad statements about how you provide tons of sensory experiences, you use them in multiple environments, something along those lines. And then you may want to have a statement that has to do with physical skills, cognitive skills, communication, and creative. And once again, these things that the PD specialist reads are things that they can write on that scoring guide of ways that you meet these. So they may not see it on the day they come in your classroom because you don't have anything you're really smelling that week. But if here you have written something about how we're going to smell apples, I'm going to use scented Play-Dohs, something along those lines, something that person's going to jot down in the notebook, then you're going to answer these 4 specific questions. You're going to pick one learning experience that you just turned in. How does that experience reflect your philosophy, how to support young children's physical development? Pick a different one, cognitive development. And the whole thing is when you look at your resource collection, there's gross motor and fine motor. For here, you've got like math and science, reading. For this one, creative. And then this one's going to be communication. Next is going to be your field experience 3. And so what you're going to do is in the last field experience, you looked at physical and cognitive to assess your rooms by. For this field experience, you're going to go in and assess by the other 2. Field experience 3, where you're going to be looking at communication and functional skills. So what I did was, here is the comprehensive scoring guide for functional areas 6 and 7. So here you're going to start here with 6. You've already done this for cognitive. So you're going to go here with functional area 6. And you may have already done this with number 2. Just transfer that stuff over. Here's the creative. And where a lot of times I see things are here with music and dance. Make sure that's obvious. That's the next one. Then here is communication. And here's creative. And so a lot of times there are things that are going to be out for them to be creative when you're in the orange section as well. So if you have a classroom, you're going to do the functional area on yours and then write up the action plan. If you're not in a classroom, we're going to go back to those 2 classrooms. And now there's 3. And use them as well. And do the exact same thing you did for cognitive and physical, for creative and communications. And so that's going to be this week's explanation. And I look forward to finding out what you find about the value of music in the classroom.